when God created this kingdom, there was a protocol, there was a structured design that he put in place for you to be able to participate in his kingdom. And this protocol is fourfold. Number one, for you to participate in his kingdom, you must receive his life. If you don't have his life, you will not have admission into that kingdom. So it will be possible for you to be a human, breathing, but you are dead. The Bible said, they that live it for pleasure, they are dead while they are walking. Many people will depart from their body and get into eternity and discover that where it mattered the most, they have no place. Because you come into the kingdom when you receive the life of God. The Bible said in John chapter 3 verse 3, it said, except a man be born again, he cannot perceive the kingdom of God. And so this kingdom that God has put in place for you and I to function in, our admission into it is to receive his life. And the way to receive his life is to receive Christ, to believe that he's the Son of God, and to accept that he died and rose from the dead for you. The day you accept that, you are brought into the kingdom. But now that you have come into the kingdom, the protocol does not stop. There are 3 other protocols he has put in place. Number 2 is that you must submit to his will. When you come into his kingdom, the way to function is to discern his will and to submit to it. Imagine if you came into Australia as an immigrant and then you look around, you say, I don't like the way they do election here. For me to be in Australia, they must change the election. That is too big for you, sir. That's the problem with humanity. See, people come now and they say, I don't like the way I was born. Oga. Yeshu. You can't come to Australia and then you say, I don't like where the state capital, the capital of the country is. Move it from Canberra to Perth. No, that's not for you to decide. You can't come to Australia and say, why do we go to work on Monday? No, let's start going to work on Saturday. Monday is free. I prefer to rest on Monday. No, kingdom does not work like that. There is a predetermined will. When you come in, you understand it and you align. So Jesus speaking in Matthew chapter 6 verse 10, he said, thy kingdom come. But how does your kingdom come? Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So you are admitted into the kingdom when you receive his life. But now that you have come into the kingdom, you must submit to the will of God. If you submit to the will of God, then he shows you his wisdom. Now that you are in this kingdom, these are the dynamics of operation. This is how you move ahead in this kingdom. So in Matthew 16:19, it says, behold, I give unto you the keys of the kingdom. I reveal to you the keys. There is a way to function in this kingdom. That's one of the ways God's servant shared with us a moment ago. In the outside world, it's possible for you to gather and keep for yourself and become big. But in this kingdom, the liberal soul shall be made fat. So while outside the kingdom, you are selfish to become big. In the kingdom, if you are selfish, you'll be small. In the kingdom, it takes liberality to become big. It's a wisdom that is not of this world. While in the outside world, you can live for yourself and be relevant. I'm going for holiday. I'm going for a break. I'm going to the sea. You have all the fun, and that is good. In the kingdom, you live for God and live for others. You find fulfillment by living for God and for others. It's a wisdom that you can't understand. It's called the kingdom. He will show you the ways of God, the wisdom of God. And then finally, when you adopt the will of God and the wisdom of God, then he will give you the authority of the kingdom. He said in Luke chapter 11 verse 20, if I by the finger of God cast out devils, it means the kingdom of God is among you. So when you come into the kingdom, 4 things are non-negotiable: the life of God, the wisdom of God, the will of God, and the authority of God. When these 4 things are working in your life, then Jesus has become your king. People can be born again, but Jesus is not their king, because they have not submitted to the will of God. God tells them, pray. They say, no, I don't feel like. They are born men. They say they feel like women. And there's nothing anybody can tell them. That's what they feel like. So Jesus is not their king. He said in the beginning it was not so. He made them male and female. Whatever makes a female say he's a male, it means he doesn't know Jesus. Jesus is not his king. If Jesus is your king, you will follow that which was predetermined. There is no politics on earth that can change it. If you like, the whole of humanity can gather and say it is approved. The voice of the king is louder than the gathering of men. Why do the heathens rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The people of the earth, they've ganged up against the Most High. You would think God will be perturbed. I was not voted. He said, him that sits in the heaven shall laugh. You know what? He is called Ancient of Days. You will live, you will pass. Another generation will come. He is still constant. He was old before time began. So he doesn't know old age. You submit to his will. Submit to his kingdom. He gives you his authority. That is the day of his power. The day of his power is the day when his kingdom comes. So this is beyond church. Church can be full. It will not be the day of his power. This is beyond programs. There can be programs everywhere. Yet it's not the day of his power. It becomes the day of his power when we receive his life. When we surrender to his will. When we function by his wisdom. And when we operate his authority. Then Jesus will be manifested as king. Now, to reveal Jesus as king is beyond the teaching. It's a life. To reveal Jesus as king is beyond the doctrine. It's a life. People who are regulated by his wisdom, controlled by his will, people who can command his authority, and people who live by his life. Those are the people that manifest the day of his power. When you operate like that, guess what happens to you? You too become a king. Because in his kingdom, it's not kings and servants. In his kingdom is kings and kings. That's why he's called the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Because he wants to share what he has with you. But you must adopt his ways before he shares with you. Because if you are not operating by his wisdom, how can he share with you? If you don't submit to his will, how can he share with you? Because his agenda is not to raise slaves, it's to raise kings. The Bible said in Exodus 19 verse 4 and 5, it says, see how I have delivered you by a mighty hand from among the Egyptians. He said, now if you will hearken to my voice and keep my covenant, he said, then I will make you a kingdom of priests. And he didn't stop there. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9, he said, you are a chosen generation. You are a royal priesthood. God's own special people called forth to manifest his excellencies. In Revelation 1 verse 6, he said he washed us and made us kings and priests unto God. So everybody seated here is not a slave but a king. Because that's what the kingdom is designed to represent. So when Jesus tells you, adopt my ways, he's not trying to deny you life. He's actually trying to give you life. Because that's the access to kingship. And believe me, when you do this, you will receive the proof, not from men, but from spirits. You will talk, demons will obey. And then you'll be wondering, how come? Because you are talking like a king. You will talk, circumstances will obey. And then you are wondering, how come circumstances understand what I say? Because your words are no longer language. They are spirit. They are life. You talk spirit. You talk life. You have become a king after the order of the King of Kings. You have become a Lord after the order of the Lord of Lords. This is God's plan to raise kings. That's the day of his power. And guess what? When that day comes and all of us become kings, then we can now avenge the enemy. We can steal the voice of the avenger. That's when any spirit who wants to do something contrary to God, you can come and say stop. That's why any circumstance contrary to God, you can say stop. Do you know that our presence on earth, even creation is happy that we came? Because as far as creation is concerned, listen, what we are teaching here is beyond praying for the sick. Our presence should stop earthquakes. The Bible said the earnest expectation of the creation waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. When we enter the day of his power, earthquake can happen. A man can stand and say, peace be still. Did you not read about Jesus? He was in a boat. The wind rose boisterously, and Jesus stood up and commanded the wind and the wave, and they were still. It's beyond laying hands on the sick. He's ruling over the earth realm. Did you not read about Jesus? They had 5 loaves and 2 fish. The people told him, a year's wages can't suffice. Jesus said, give me. He lifted it up, gave thanks, and gave them bread multiplied. The power to change circumstance, the power to address nature. This is what God has given us. We are supposed to manifest God. But the question is, have we adopted the kingdom? Jesus shows up, a man dies, 4 days in the grave, and they say, where did you keep it? Those who loved him whispered, please sir, it's been 4 days. They believe you are a prophet. If you go and nothing happens, it will discredit your ministry. And Jesus wept for their unbelief. You think death can intimidate us? No. Where we live is the realm of life. Death has been conquered. And he went to the grave. He didn't even exercise the courtesy of saying, let's lose him, let's unban him. No. He stood at the gate and shouted, Lazarus, come forth. And the Bible said him that was dead came back to life. Do you know that everything you call a challenge is supposed to be your platform? Our platform is not a stage. Our platform are the challenges we dominate in order to manifest God's kingdom. This is why ministry is beyond 5-fold. The 5-fold ministry is to equip. The 5-fold ministry is to train. The 5-fold ministry is to raise others. Ministry is an overflow of divinity. Every one of us is in ministry because you are a witness. You were supposed to go into the bank. You were supposed to go into government. You were supposed to go into the market to manifest the glory of God. But the question is Jesus your king? Some of us have fought the will of God for every aspect of our lives. From our devotion to our resources, we have fought the will of God. Jesus speaks, we negate him. Jesus gives a command, we negate him. And when we need to represent God, we can no longer represent him. And then we now come back and we are angry with God. Meanwhile, we violated the protocol. The writer of the book of Hebrews said, time will fail me to speak of Gideon. He was giving you some kingdom entities. To speak of Barak, to speak of Jephthah, to speak of Samuel, of David and the prophets who through faith subdued kingdoms, obtained promises, wrought righteousness, valiant in battle. Weak men were made strong. He said they put to flight the armies of the alien. When they showed up, God showed up. When they spake, the kingdom of God manifested. How come we have become so vulnerable? He said, I have seen an abomination under the face of the earth. He said, beggars are riding on horses, while princes are trekking on their feet. People who should heal the sick are hoping for God to touch their bodies. People who should change circumstances are buried beneath contrary circumstances. People who should be the light of the world are swallowed up in darkness. And the answer is simple. The days of his power. The day when a generation will receive his life. The day when a generation will submit to his will. The day when a generation will function by his wisdom, so that his authority can be committed to them. Yeshua, Yeshua. I will talk about the life and the power. But tonight, let me show you a bit about submission. Remember, I told you 4 components: the life, the wisdom, the will, and the power. Let me talk about the will. If you want to function as an entity that carries and manifests the power and who can unveil the day of his power, submission to God is non-negotiable. If you don't know the will of God and you don't submit to the will of God, you will be a victim in this realm. You know, when God gives us an invitation to function in his kingdom, we may think we are doing God a favor. Now remember, God doesn't need you to be king. Neither does he need you to be God. In fact, before he started creating, he already was God. He didn't become God after creating you. He was God before he started creation. He was king before he started creation. So he doesn't need you to be God or king. You need him to be relevant. So anything he tells you is for your own good. Anything he tells you is for your own blessing. He knows that's the only way you can live life to the full. But if you reject God, you will discover that the realm you are in is a realm of briars, of thorns. It's a realm of wickedness, a realm of treachery, a realm of demonic infestation. Paul was speaking in Ephesians chapter 6 from verse 10. And Paul opened us up to a battle that we never knew existed. Be strong in the Lord in the power of his might. Take on the whole armor of God, wherewith you are able to withstand the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And I said, hey, when did I get into a wrestling match? When was I invited? They don't invite you. You are born into it. So if you don't accept God, you will meet it with time. And when we talk like this, they say, oh, these Africans have come again. Because you think all the demons in the world are in Africa. We accept that there are some demons in Africa and we are fighting them. But you don't know the one coming to your borders. Every time I come to the Western world, I am shocked at the alarming rate of autism. And you think it's a sickness? It's an attack. The gates are porous. There are no more kingdom men who can say stop. Trump was lamenting the other day and he said some years ago, it used to be 1 child in every 1,000. He said now it's 1 child in every 34 child. Don't you think Satan is covering a lot of ground? You think the work of demons is corruption? You are joking. There are different kinds of demons. At least in Africa, we don't have people on the street protesting that a man will marry a man. We still understand the meaning of marriage. I'm saying that the definition now is difficult for some of you. But at least we still, you are more intelligent according to your statistics. But at least we still know the definition of marriage. That in the beginning it was male and female. Now they kill people in your world for saying such truth. One of the most promising young men of this century was shot dead some days ago because he spoke truth. Now you think corruption is in Africa? You think wickedness is in Africa? Shot dead for speaking truth. This is why men must rise that submit to Jesus. And when such men rise, the way you know it is that they have a slogan: if I perish, I perish. Because when you kill one, the man to rest on 100. You will regret that you killed them. In fact, their death becomes a greater witness than their lives. The young man that was killed lived for 31 years, but the witness of 1 day of his death is more than his 31 years life. Today, every part of the world has heard his message. And many have been converted. So the person who killed him facilitated his assignment on earth. Because you can't kill the voice of a spirit. He was pregnant with the voice of a spirit. God was the one crying through him. Because there was an abomination overtaking the land. A man who knew the will of God stood doggedly and defy death. They asked him some weeks ago, what if you die? He said, I want to be remembered for my courage, for standing for my faith. If that kind of Christianity does not return, we will not see the days of his power. So the likes of Charlie Kirk must rise from Australia. Men who are dogged in submitting to the will of God. If I perish, I perish. We lack such believers. Church is full, but you can't find men. May the Lord number you among the agents of his kingdom.